If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Welcome to Skiba News Nation, bringing you unfiltered views, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Skiba, award-winning musician and son of Rob Skiba.
With the son of the legendary Rob Skiba. Jeremiah Skiba, what's up?
With my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Graham. It's like I don't even want to wake up.
He's on a quest for truth.
Skiba News Nation family, today we have a very special guest and a great friend of the show, renowned filmmaker, author, and researcher, the great L.A. Marzulli. Welcome to Skiba News Nation, L.A. What have you been up to, my friend?
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. I want to blow your mind with some stuff today and get your input on a couple.
Okay. By the way, I'm really sorry for your loss. I was, looking at that picture you sent me, and it's very sobering. Everybody's dead but me. It's like, it's weird. It's a weird deal. It really is. I'll be 75 this year. So, I don't know how much time I have left, but that picture is really sobering. I was in Dallas. Your mom is going, right there's the book depository, and here's the grassy knoll, and there's the headshot, and I'm going like, oh my gosh. And Rick's got it all on film, and your dad's driving. It's just like, can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that brings me peace is knowing that they're together, and it's probably the only thing that makes it okay in my mind and in my heart. It's just, it just feels like, just like him, like it feels like they're on vacation. I don't know. If that ever gets better, I don't know, but we'll see.
It's, I think, just from my experience, death can do two things. It can push us away from God, or it can draw us closer, realizing that, like David says, this is, I know I'll see him again. He's going to see his son again. He knows that. And that's our hope. I mean, that's our hope. Meantime, hand on the plow, can't go down the PTSD road, can't go down with depression. Just gotta, like you say, you're going to see him again. So,
yep. And we just keep building what they started, and that's the goal.
Yeah, exactly. Appreciate it. I came out with, since last time I was on, this book was published by Charisma Media, and it came out in October of last year. It's selling really well, and coupled with that was finally we finished up the 10 DVDs on UFOs. So we are the only Christian ministry, my business partner Gil Zimmerman and I, that's created 10 films on the UFO phenomena. Everything from Close Encounters of the First, Second, Third, Fourth, Fifth Kind, cattle mutilations, abductions, crop circles, 2 films on Roswell, and finally, of course, what is the truth? Are these extraterrestrials or interdimensionals? What are we looking at? So I've been busy, and here we are.
Well, we're so happy to have you. And before we got started, I wanted to show you something kind of cool that my dad actually did before he died, and he wasn't done with his comic book yet, his second comic book, but my mom and I were able to finish it. But he gave you a shout out in there, and I thought it was the craziest thing. Can you pull that up, Opa? And if Jake could read it, because I have a hard time reading, but...
All right, here we go. Nonsense. Come on, honey. Let's get prepared to exit out of here. Maybe we can still catch the rest of Marzulli's talk.
And I thought that was just super cool. So.
Yeah, that is cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so if it's okay, I'd like to start with Aurora, which I covered it in our history segment. I don't know, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. But it was one of the craziest experiences I've ever had going somewhere, and like just the whole history behind it. What do you know about Aurora?
Well, it's on my bucket list too. I've never been there. And you got to remember, ground penetrating radar is incredibly unreliable.
Yeah.
I've done it 3 different times. I mean, you get a little box of sand. Oh my gosh, look at that. And you dig down and it's a little pile of sand. It's like, okay. So there seems to be something there. Something crashed. This little being got out. They buried the little being in the cemetery. We don't know where the headstone is anymore. The headstone was taken, but people have a general idea of where this entity was buried. And, what I would do, would be to see money greases the wheels. There's no doubt about it. So you go to the town of Aurora and you go, you need a backer for this. What projects do you guys need done? Oh, really? Something that's going to cost X amount of dollars? How about if I contribute 50 grand? Just let me dig where the burial allegedly is. Let me dig there and see what we got. That's how you open doors, because otherwise they're never going to open the door, because the powers that be will find 50 excuses to Sunday not to do it. But money opens the door. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the way the world works. Money opens the door. You give a donation, people will listen to you. You donate to a politician, you've got his ear. That's how it works.
Right. And I think their biggest thing that they say to people are, well, we have to notify the next of kin before we can dig up anything. That's their big thing here in Texas, is you got to notify the next of kin, and how can you do that with an alien? And so people are like, but it's an alien. Like, if it's an alien, we should be able to dig it up. But if you come to Aurora, can I go with you? Because I think
absolutely, that'd be great.
That'd be awesome, dude. But yeah, I think it's so crazy because when it hit the windmill, like, people had never seen airplanes. It was before airplanes. So when it exploded and hit the ground, how would they have known what an explosion was or what an aircraft was? No,
they didn't. That's the whole point. And they see this thing and it's like, they don't know what it is, what to do with it. So they give it a good Christian burial.
Yeah. I took a photo of that when we were there. Yeah. I said, Christian burial, it's on the plaque. And I was like, well, that's so strange.
It's like, what? It's really kind of wacky. But, the whole Aurora thing is very, very interesting. A lot of weird stuff happened. It was like they were almost kind of like testing the water. In other words, when I say they, the fallen ones were looking at the rise of Israel, the Jews coming back into the land in the latter part of the 19th century, and all of a sudden, you get the whole Zionist movement and Israel coming back into the land. The latter rain begins to fall, which hadn't fallen in almost 2,000 years. Couldn't grow anything because there was no latter rain, not enough water. So everything begins to change. They know. They can't see through time the way the Most High God can see through time, but they can see through time differently than we can. We can't see the future. We can't go backwards, but I believe they can travel both ways, but they're not all knowing. I'll make that really clear. They're not all knowing, but they know what the time looks like, and that's why the scout ships, they know something's up. They know something's up.
Yeah.
That's conjecture.
Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to run that past you, but yeah.
We have some things that happened over in LA in California, some fires, and we have some user submitted questions, and we were wondering your opinion on weather modification and the fires that happened in Hollywood, and maybe you could give your analysis. I know, a lot of us conspiracy theories, we already recognize weather modification, but do you believe that there were energy weapons causing that? Do you believe that it was tied to Biden's slogan, build back better, and so they literally burned everything down to the ground so that they could replace it? Or what's your analysis?
I think it's a land grab. I think it's Lahaina 2.0. I think they were spraying the crap out of the Santa Monica Mountains for several weeks before, just like they did here in the 2018 fire. They sprayed the mountains. What are they spraying with? Why, as people, why are we subjected to this nonsense? What are they spraying? And don't give me the contrail nonsense, because these ain't contrails. Because if they're contrails, the EPA needs to get out here and stop it right now. But they're not contrails, they're chemtrails.
Look at your own health, and you know what is going on. And if you love your children, join us in fighting what we need to fight. This is a just fight. It's the right fight. It's the right cause.
And if the climate engineering operations, which are derailing Earth's life support systems, are not immediately exposed and halted, all other challenges for the human race become moot, because the planet will no longer support life. We are in completely uncharted territory. Virtually the entire web of life is being systematically contaminated and decimated by the ongoing climate engineering operations, on top of all other forms of human activity or anthropogenic activity that are wreaking havoc in the web of life. Climate engineering, mathematically, statistically speaking, is the single greatest and most immediate threat we collectively face, short of nuclear cataclysm.
Sounds like pure science fiction, but there is a growing underground movement of people who believe that our harsh drought is part of a government conspiracy.
Here, outlandish ideas like weather warfare and climate engineering, in other words, weather control, are accepted as basic fact.
Climate engineering is the greatest single assault on the environment ever launched by humanity, without question.
Dane Wigginton, lead researcher for Geoengineering Watch, is sounding the alarm. Climate engineering, they say, is to blame for the harshest recorded drought in California history.
Because these things, when the plane flies like this thing billows out, long trail, and then it puffs up and expands and it lingers in the sky and turns the sky milky white. That's not a contrail, folks. Wake up. Who's doing this and why? In 2018, the year of our fire, they sprayed like you wouldn't believe over the Santa Monica Mountains where I live. Right before the Pacific Palisades fire, they sprayed like crazy. And you know what? It's like the winds were 50 miles an hour with gusts up to 70. You can't fight that. You cannot fight that. And they drained the reservoir. Do you realize how many millions of gallons of water was in that reservoir for a repair that would have taken 2 weeks without draining the water? They let that thing sit for, if that's not delivered, I don't know what is. And then, 10 fire engines sit where they could have been dispatched to the Palisades. And then there's no water in the fire hydrants. This is a catastrophic failure on government. And then, Trump flies out here, release the water, do this. I mean, most fair-minded people, unfortunately, we're not represented here in California. We're not. And this ridiculous idea of we've got to save the steelhead trout or the smelt, whatever the stupid fish is called. No one's seen this thing in the last 10 years. But by golly, by gum, we got to save the fish. Meanwhile, the Palisades burned. And here's the thing that really irks me. 5,000 homes were lost. How many plan checkers are in the building department? 20? 100? What happened? And they're saying, well, it's going to take 2 years before, we can clear the property. Really? See, Trump needs to get back out here. This is the disaster which ain't going away. And in my opinion, it's a land grab. It's Lahaina 2.0. They want a 15-minute city there. Burn everybody out, make it so nobody can build anything. The state comes in and gobbles it all up. which is what they do. The state already owns, I think, between the states and the feds, they already own 75% of California. Now, those figures could be a little high. Dumb it down to 65%. So what's left for us? You tell me. Californians pay some of the highest property taxes and state taxes, in the history of the world. Why are we doing this? Why do you don't care about us? All you do is you look at us as some sort of a money-making machine so you guys can do what you want. And Trump's holding their feet accountable. The billions of dollars spent to the railway to nowhere, who's financing that? Where does the money go? And at some point, the good people of California are going to wake up and vote these guys out because this ain't working.
Yeah, that look on Newsom's face,
I know.
It just irks me, man. It just irks me.
Irks me too. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. I know Trump sent the army to turn the water back on, and I was curious what the atmosphere like in California is now that his presidency's begun. I mean, are people just losing their minds out there? I mean, what's it like in the streets?
Well, I mean, you get people like Whoopi Goldberg stating today, I'm not even going to talk to any Trump supporter. I mean, that's the most arrogant, ignorant statement I've ever heard in my whole life. I mean, it just might be. I mean, who do you think you are, first of all? Who cares if you don't talk to anybody? What do I care? Why are you even in the news? Who cares what you think about anything? The bottom line is Elon Musk is showing the trillions, with a capital T, of waste of taxpayer money. We don't even know where it goes. Then you get this whole ridiculous DEI thing. Finally, they're getting rid of it. It doesn't work. It never will work. You need to hire the best and the brightest. Who cares what they look like, as long as they're the best and the brightest? Otherwise, you're dumbing down everything. Why is it that a white male is castigated? Oh, it's white privilege. You say it often enough. Nobody gave me anything. Well, you're white, L.A. That's why you rose to the top. Not necessarily. I could be an alcoholic on Skid Row. The only thing I put my nose to the grindstone. I was taught a work ethic by my father, and I put my nose to the grindstone. I mean, I was working from the time I was $13 for 25 cents an hour. I mean, that's what the wage was. I mean, it's like either got it, you want to make something of yourself, or you don't. Anybody in this country can do anything that they want to do if they really want to do it. There's no more excuses. Don't give me this stuff. Oh, it's because I'm this color or that nationality that I can't succeed. Excuse me, I'm not buying that anymore. Not for a stinking second. If a person wants to achieve something, they will go out of their way to achieve it. And for the first time in history, the American dream is we have the liberty to do whatever we want to do. We have the freedom and the liberty to do it. The example of that is the Wright brothers. So, the Wright brothers have a bicycle shop. They're making bikes, right? But that's not what they really want to do. They want to see if they can fly. They've got the liberty and the freedom to pursue that dream. And they pursue the dream. And then Kitty Hawk, and it's game over. It flies. The thing can fly. And that's the American dream right there. Are there things wrong in the country? Of course. But where else are you going to go? Show me any other country that's better than what we are. What we have here in America. Doesn't exist.
Agreed.
Yeah, Jeremiah, you're one of the few people that actually are certified to be white. Would you want to show LA your certification?
I got this really cool white privilege card, and if you want, I can send you one. But I thought it was the funniest thing, and somebody in the comments were like, I finally noticed it, and that's so funny. Where can I get one? And I was like, I'll send you one. But that's my white privilege card.
I mean, it's just,
and of course.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and of course, we understand that it's just a funny thing that our culture has propped up for control purposes, and it's just sad that that's how we've existed as a country for so long, and we see actually positive changes with this current administration, which are really encouraging. We're seeing a lot of exposing of corruption, just some phenomenal numbers coming out of proving that the very thing that Democrats have spoke out of one side of their mouth, they've been doing exactly what they're trumpeting against. And it's so refreshing to see a change. But I did want to ask, just because in the midst of all this good, we of course have the announcement of a Project Stargate, and you have the leaders of AI innovation. I wanted to ask your thoughts and maybe, tie into the title. What does Stargate even mean, and how does that tie into some of your research?
There's a clip that I actually commented on today. You guys probably have seen. It's called Skinny Bob. And Skinny Bob was allegedly smuggled film that was smuggled out from some base someplace where these grays, but they're not grays. They're something else. I think that's what the fallen ones actually look like. They're not grays. And they call it Skinny Bob. There's a bunch of them, and apparently it was a hidden camera. Could it be actors in suits? Absolutely. But, we don't know. We don't know what we're looking at. So you've got Area 51, S4. You got Bob Lazar in the 90s. And I interviewed Bob Lazar before I was doing what I'm doing now. But in the early days of my research, 94, 95, Bob Lazar came to Inn. There was a little conference there by Gary Schultz and Norio Hayakawa. I attended the conference, and I met Bob Lazar, and I asked him a bunch of questions. And he answered me. I also met my very first abductee at that conference and realized immediately that Stockholm Syndrome sinks in, and these people begin to side with their abductors. And that's a 3-hour conversation. No president that I'm aware of has ever been to Area 51. How is that? Who's funding Area 51? Who's funding S4? Do we have back-engineered craft? According to David Grush, which, by the way, is I think the 15th rung on the ladder of disclosure in the book, David Grush is before Congress. He is under oath. He's a whistleblower. He's been threatened. There's been hit pieces written against him. His name has been dragged through the mud. He has been disparaged. Nancy Mace, Republican Congresswoman from South Carolina, asks him, do we have crashed craft? He basically says, yes, I've already stated that in my News Nation interview. Well, she goes, well, do we have the pilots of these crashed craft? And he goes, yes, biologics were recovered. And she asked, well, were these human or non-human biologics? And David Grush, bully for him, a stand-up guy, the best of the best of the best, looks right up at her and said, non-human biologics. What do you do with that? What do you do with a statement like that? So Stargate is the idea that, first of all, we have the craft. Second of all, we know that there's bodies involved here. Third of all, there's a group called the Collins Elite. Do they still exist today? I don't know. Nick Redford's got a book about that. It's very dark. It gets into Jack Parsons, Babylon Working. It gets into Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, all this stuff. It's really, really strange. Not for the faint of heart. And the late Russ Dizdar talked about the Babylon Working deal. And I think, Jeremiah, I think your dad talked about it. The Alamantra working ritual, the sexual rituals that were done. Hitler was all into this with the Vril and all this other stuff. And Aleister Crowley called himself the Beast. Babylon Working. I mean, did they open up a gateway? Did they open up a portal? And Lamb, the entity that apparently appeared to Aleister Crowley, is very, very similar to what we see in the Skinny Bob deal. The big head, the small mouth, the large eyes, but it's not a gray. The grays don't have mouths that move. And this thing has 4 fingers. Let me try to do it. It's a thumb, and then 3 other fingers. The hand looks just like this. In fact, let me try it this way. Yeah, can I do it this way? Yeah, there you go. That's even better. So this is what the hand looks like. 3 fingers and a thumb. But the fingers are really, really long. Yeah. Really long fingers. And in our one of our Watchers series, the late Richard Shaw and the late Dr. Roger Lear. Roger was at a site where the person was abducted. Okay, when he went to the backyard, the fig tree just spontaneously combusted. The whole house was irradiated. Next to the window where the drywall was, the window was right next to the bed where the person was abducted. So Roger knew about the fluorescing. So he had a fluorescent light. Sure enough, there's a fingerprint on the wall. And we took the drywall out of the wall, repaired it, but took the drywall down to Seal Lab. And there was a residue from the 4-fingered handprint. By the way, the end of the fingers were bulbous. They went like this and then finger. And we examined it under a scanning electron microscope. That's hard science. And in the film, I go, is it safe to say, without putting words in your mouth, that this is non-human? And the tech went, yep, whatever this is non-human. So, I mean, they know, yeah, that's in our Watcher series.
Yeah.
You know, I've been doing this for years, and that's hard science. And, you know, that's why the naysayers will say there's no physicality to the UFO phenomenon. They're just talking out their hat. They don't know what they're talking about. And they do a great disservice to the body of Christ and the UFO researchers like myself and the people who come forward like Karen Wilkinson. We published her book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. There is a breeding program. It ties right back into Daniel 2:43. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. It's all right there. It's all right there. You just got to know where to look and how to interpret it. So, you know, we've done the research. That film is like what, 15 years old, 12 years old, something like that. About 12 years old. You know, and it's hard science. You can talk about all you want, but we did the science. Right. Just like we wrote the story on the Kandahar Giant. Just like my business partner, Gil Zimmerman, and I went to the debris field. That's a piece of metal found in the debris field. We found that metal in the debris field in Roswell. We've had that metal tested. It's an aluminum alloy, but it doesn't match anything we have on the planet. We found the metal. Thank you, Frank Kimbler. Thank you, Chuck Sikowski. They have metal detectors. We're the only film company, and I'm boasting here, I get it. Calm down, LA. But we're the only film company who's ever been able to record on film, digging down into the soil and coming up with a piece of metal like that, which then was placed in my hand. We're it. We're the only film company that's ever captured that on film.
That's amazing.
Keep shouting it from the top of your lungs, because you know people need to know that you guys have uncovered real physicality that has proved the phenomenon, and you got to keep loud and strong. And you mentioned the corruption and the genetic testing, of course, and which is very interesting because we have that Project Stargate in the past, and now we have this new modern AI Project Stargate. And what one of the heads of the new administration that's going to be overseeing the development of AI in the United States has come out and said is that they're going to use AI to crack the genetic code of DNA to create custom VACCINES, if you catch my drift. And what are your thoughts on that corruption of flesh? And you know, that sounds like Days of Noah stuff to me.
Well, it is Days of Noah, and this is why the Lord has to come back. Because you can't fix this anymore. We're way past the point. I don't care who's in the office. You're not going to clean this thing up 100%. You can clean up a lot of it, and they need to do it. They're already doing it, for crying out loud. You know, they're already doing it. There's only 2 genders. Oh, really? I never would have guessed. I mean, seriously? We're even discussing this nonsense? But, you know, the other side of the aisle, they're so entrenched with their wokeness that they don't. I mean, it is what it is. There's a disparity of thought. Going back to Whoopi Goldberg. I've met Whoopi Goldberg at the Trancas Market down here. I mean, hi Whoopi, that type of thing. Not formally. I mean, I wish her no ill will. She's a human being like we are. But why the vitriol? I mean, how can you say that this is bad? You know, remember, you guys were the guys that are jumping up telling us that Trump was going to get us into World War III. Who got us almost into World War III? Isn't it the Biden administration? Billions of dollars go to Ukraine, and no one knows where that money is. $100 billion is missing. Here's the deal, guys. $1 billion, right, is $999 million. You got that? That's $1 billion. So, you know, you skim off 5 million, no one's ever going to know, right? How can you keep track of it? Hey, Bob, we're missing 5 million. Don't worry about it. It's chump change. $100 billion? $100 billion? They need to find out what happened to the $100 billion. We are looking at corruption, which runs so deep in this country. And that's what they're afraid of. Because when we find out, when the American people find out where the money's going, look, I don't know where Gavin Newsom gets $9 million. It's none of my business to move into his $9 million mansion. You know, bully for him. Maybe Aunt Nancy gave it to him. Maybe he's invested wisely. I'm not accusing him of anything. I want to make that really, really straight. But $9 million? I mean, for a house? Hello? Where does that money come from? And maybe it's all legit. I don't know. That's why I want to make it really clear. I'm not accusing him. Where does Obama get $17 million when he retires from presidency? He has less than $1 million to his name. All of a sudden, he buys a $17 million mansion at Martha's Vineyard. How is it even possible? And that's why it needs to be investigated. How does Jeffrey Epstein, die in a prison where his cellmate is moved, the security cameras go stop working, right? And the security guards who should be there aren't there, all within a 24-hour period? I mean, how is that even possible? What are the odds of that? And then he commits suicide, but one of the doctors who did the autopsy goes, no, he was strangled, because here are the telltale signs. But we know nothing about that, just like we don't know, and I could get you guys in trouble here. I don't want to do that. Why don't we know anything about Butler, PA? Why is it coming out, allegedly, that Governor Shapiro and Biden met several times? That could just be a nice coincidence. But why is it that the FBI are all over this? Why is it that there's a confluence of errors which are orchestrated? Did you see the women that were supposedly protecting Donald Trump? They came up to hear on him.
Yeah.
Now, who do you want? Do you want some guy who's 6'4", towering above you, or do you want a woman who's 5'8", who can't put her gun, her revolver in her holster, is fumbling with it? Who do you want? Is this DEI on the steroids? Why is it that the local police are on a different frequency? Why is it that we know nothing about crooks months after the deal? Why? Why is it that Anna Paulina Luna stands up at a press conference and says, we're going to get to the bottom about the assassinations of JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King. We're going to look at the whole UFO thing. We're going to talk about, what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. And then she drops a bombshell. I've looked at some of the evidence from the JFK assassination. There were 2 shooters. I've been a student of the assassination since it happened, years and years and years ago. I was 13 when he was gunned down in Dallas. I never believed the Warren report. By the way, this is where we get the whole conspiracy theory that came out of, you were labeled a conspiracy theorist if you did not believe the Warren report. My dad believed the Warren report pretty much till the day he died. But at the 50th year anniversary of JFK, they showed, and you can't find it anymore. It's been scrubbed. But they showed LBJ's mistress, all these people that you knew nothing about, coming forward talking about the secret meeting the night before where all these people flew into Dallas. And here's something else to think about with the whole JFK thing. The Parkland Darkers were all on film. They all go like this. The back of his head's blown out. The back of his head's blown out. 2 shooters, probably 3. One from the record building right next to Dow Tech, right? That's the back wound. Bam. The front wound is from the triple overpass. That goes here. The head wound comes from the grassy knoll, blows the left side of his head out. When he's at Parkland, they realize this is a gunshot wound, but they don't go for it. They don't track it. Why? Because Kennedy's on the table, and the back of his head and his brains in blood. I don't want to get gross here, but they're dripping on the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a goner. There's no coming back from this. So they don't pay attention to this. They're trying to pay attention to half of the back of his head blown apart.
Yeah.
Well, we died. Our country died in Dallas that day. Our country died in Dallas. They tried to kill Reagan. They tried to kill Trump. Tried to kill Reagan, and they tried to kill Trump. Twice. The goofy guy at the golf course. How did he know that Trump was going to play golf? How is it that Crooks can climb the building and everybody's going, he's got a gun, he's up there, he's up there. No one does anything? How is it that the audio, and I've heard the audio of the assassination attempt, you hear Crook's gun, but then you hear another gun, and then you hear a boom. There are 3 different shooters there. The boom is the guy on the roof that takes out Crooks. The other 2, there was another shooter involved, in my opinion. It's Dallas 2.0. It's got to come out. I got to tell you something, guys. I'm going out on a limb here. But I'll be 79 at the next election. I will be. I'll be 79 chasing 80. They really want to kill an 80-year-old man, right? But before Trump got elected, I wouldn't come on the record and say any of this stuff because you couldn't. We were in a climate where there was no free speech, whether you were called a conspiracy theorist for thinking about this and all sorts of other names. It's got to come out. And we've got 2 years. We've got 2 years to do it before the midterm elections, when they can flip the Senate and flip the House, and then he becomes a lame duck president. We've got 2 years to get to the bottom of where the taxpayer money is going. Why is it that $100 billion goes missing in Ukraine? You know, why is it that these politicians retire with millions and millions of dollars on a salary which just doesn't warrant it? But, you know, we're so far off topic, I don't care. It's all good.
I mean, I'm glad you're bringing that up because that's, I mean, that's stuff that we all want to talk about and, you know, we discuss on the show, and there's just so many questions about every single one of those topics that it makes your head spin. Like,
yeah, I agree.
I've even heard the Butler thing, that one of the cops, it was a Butler, whatever their neighboring county was one of the guys that actually got Crooks, and he stopped shooting after that, but it wasn't the bullet that, you know, I don't want to get too gory on here, but they say there was no more shooting after that, which is very interesting because nobody talks about that. But I agree with you on pretty much everything you said. But when you mentioned the JFK stuff, and I know we could talk forever about JFK because I mean, that's, my wife tells me I need to stop, you know, like it's too much. But what do you think that we're going to find in these documents that we don't already know? And another thing that I found interesting when Luna was talking about all the things that they were going to do, she said the 9/11 files. And I looked at my wife and I said, what are the 9/11 files? Nobody has ever talked about them being files on 9/11. And then I think that's going to be like a huge explosion. You know what I mean?
Buildings, no pun intended, buildings do not collapse at free fall speed. That's it. They do not collapse. Building 7 not hit by a plane. Here's the roof. It goes in like this, and then it collapses. I'll try to make it better. So here's the building, right? So all of a sudden, the roof buckle, and then the building just goes like this and collapses at free fall speed. Buildings don't do that. Yeah. Buildings do not do that. Buildings don't turn to dust. Thank you, Dr. Judy Wood. As the part of the building is falling from the Twin Towers, you watch it turn to dust right before your eyes. I believe we were looking at a scalar weapon that was used. The gold bullion that was buried is missing from underneath the towers. Building 7 had all the Secret Service stuff in it. Who knows what else? I mean, they talk about transparency, and people like me are instantly labeled a conspiracy theorist. No, I'm a conspiracy theorist because I don't believe in the Warren Report. The term conspiracy theorist was used to label anyone who did not believe in the official Warren Report from the government. Well, I've never bought it. That makes me a conspiracy theorist. Quit giving me labels and become transparent. You know, tell us what's out in Area 51. Show the American people. If the Skinny Bob video is real, come out and say it. You know, and this is where we are. I mean, there's all this deliberate obfuscation. There's all these threats. There's all these secret organizations. No one knows where the money goes. This isn't a government by the people and for the people. The American people voted overwhelmingly. Trump has a mandate, overwhelmingly, to bring him into office. Is he a human being? Yeah. Has he done despicable things in the past? Yeah. But anybody else who's watching this, haven't you done despicable things? Haven't I done some despicable things? You know, what define despicable?
Yeah, we're humans.
We're human beings. But that's what they go after. Meanwhile, our last president got us into Ukraine. Billions of dollars were funneled to Ukraine, and no one knows where the money went. Seriously? Yeah. And somehow that gets a pass? Somehow that's okay. But the fact that Elon Musk is looking into it, oh, we can't have that. We can't have that, because somebody might go to jail.
Yeah, and I love watching people like Maxine Waters and all those Democrats just being like so horrified that you know, Elon Musk is doing this, but it's because they're going to be exposed. I mean, exactly. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
On the topic, guys, that I think you might find humorous, in Washington, D.C., the Google search engine analytics have revealed that people living in DC are searching more than usual, not just a little more than usual, a lot more than usual, searching the term defense lawyer as somebody who can get them out of jail free. Oh man, it's so. And I also wanted to say, I wonder if Joe Biden came up with his presidential slogan during 9/11. He those buildings fell, and he's like, better. Build back better, build back better. We're gonna do that when I'm president.
No better done. I mean,
well, it was the third term of Obama. Let's face it.
Yep.
I mean, Obama and what's her face was running the show. Susan Rice, they were running the show. Biden was just the figurehead. And what was supposed to happen, and Trump was supposed to be killed in Butler, and if he hadn't turned his head at the last second, he'd be dead. They would have blown his head off. Yep. The Republican, think about let's run with that. The Republican Party would have been thrown into complete disarray, 100% disarray, because there's no one to take Trump's place. Who are they going to put up?
Well, that was before he announced who his VP was going to be. So
that's my point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of convenient.
So they have nobody that can take Trump's place. The Republican Party is thrown into complete disarray. That was the plan. Then Biden steps down, Kamala comes up, which is what they did anyway, because they kept with the plan, because Biden's an empty suit by that point. And Kamala would have won. Without Trump, Kamala would have won. More people would have voted for her because the whole media was behind her anyway. Oh, we're really sorry. Vote for me, blah, blah, blah. And that would have been the death of America as we know it. If she had gotten in, you can kiss America goodbye. It would have been but the Lord is merciful. We have a window of time, and I'll throw something else at you. Trump has stated that we'll provide aid to Israel, but we're not sending any troops. Think about that. So in Ezekiel 38, I wrote about this in my out-of-print book, Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural. I keep meaning to do a second edition. I never get around to it. But I digress. We're not mentioned in the Ezekiel 38-39 war. Why is that? And just recently, my editor, Sonda Allison, came up with the same thing independently of me. So there was no collusion between the two of us, and we were talking about this very thing. And she said, maybe we're not there because we don't engage, because we have a president who's not going to send troops over there. Maybe that's why we're not there. And all of a sudden, a light bulb goes off, and it's like, wow. But we are mentioned. We're the young lions because we say, have you come to take spoil? We do say that. So, people go, oh, it's calmed down over there. Not for a second, folks. This is just a lull. It's winter. They're regrouping. Watch what happens in the summer months. Watch.
Yeah.
You see that pattern in ancient warfare where nations would only go to war in the spring because they needed the maximum amount of time to, and you saw it even paralleled with when Russia attacked in 2022. They attacked when? In February, at the end of the winter months and starting into the summer. So it's a pattern that's even followed in today's world. It's really amazing to see the cycles.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you guys remember when the orbs were a big thing? It was like right before Biden was out of office. And then they never talked about them again. What are your thoughts about those orbs that people were trying to fly drones up to? Do you have any thoughts on those?
Yeah, I do. I actually did several shows on it. One of them on Nino Rodriguez's show, and it's a triptych. One is that these drones are sniffers. They're looking for radiological spikes, and they can't say anything about it because if they say, hey, we're flying these drones over Newark, New Jersey, because we think there's a radiological bomb that's, got fission material in there that they might explode, they're not going to say anything because there'll be mass panic. Guaranteed the FAA knew exactly who was flying the drones. You just don't do that. But they're everywhere. They're down in the Gulf, they're in California, Oregon. They're looking for something. So the first thing is these are sniffers. The drones are sniffers. They're looking for radiological targets. The second idea is these are back-engineered craft from S4, from Area 51. Why? Because they're going into the ocean. Normal drones don't do that. The size of cars. So it's a real mixed bag here, a real mixed bag. The third scenario is these are hostiles, which are being flown to check us out, which I don't think that's the least. The orbs, that's the other side of the aisle. That's the fallen one. The orbs that are appearing with the drones, that's why it's a mixed bag. What are we really looking at? And then, of course, it all just kind of goes away. Yeah. They disappear, at least for now. But it's almost like they're testing the waters to see how far they can go. I think that the fallen ones know their time is close. Remember, the restrainer is there until the restrainer is what? Taken out of the way. And then God sends the strong delusion. He allows it. He sends it deliberately. Okay, here you go. This is your time. And the fallen ones, they're waiting for that go. They're waiting for that moment.
Yep.
There's so many things happening. It seems like it's almost hard to keep track, especially with how fast executive orders are being signed. And there's so many things that are being exposed. Do you think that with all of the information coming out about the corruption and the way money and funds have been shifted around in corrupt ways, that we'll be able to deduce in some ways what previous administrations have been sending that black budget money to? Is there a way to start looking at where they've put all these funds and figure out what they've been doing for the past, 3 or 4 administrations? I mean, I know I've heard Reagan was likely the last real American president, and before him, it was like Teddy Roosevelt or something like that. So, I mean, can we, maybe deduce from some of this information coming out what they've been doing behind the scenes?
I think so. I think that's why you've got Elon Musk. You've got him there because, he's got these computer geeks with him. They're going to uncover it. If anybody can do it, it's Elon Musk. And the pushback is, oh, you're not an elected official, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. Don't you want to know where your tax money is going? Don't you want to see if there's a cover-up? Don't you want to come to an understanding of money which is being spent on ridiculous items? Ridiculous items. Nancy Mace in the halls of Congress was grilling one of the governors. Yes or no? Does this money going out to fund a transgender clinic in some small town in India, does this benefit the American people? Yes or no? And the one governor says no. The guy next to her goes no, and then the clown at the end goes, I cannot say yes or no to that statement. What a little weasel. What a little weasel. But, and she was a whole series of questions were misappropriated funds. I mean, does this benefit the American people? No, it doesn't. And this is why the last bill in Congress started off at what? 115, I forget what it was, some astronomical number, right? $115 billion. No, it was 1,100, roughly 1,100 pages, right? And they got it down to 115 pages. It's like, it's got to stop. This nonsense has to stop. Just like Pelosi stands up when she was Speaker of the House. We have to pass the bill before we can read the bill. It's one of the most absurd statements I've ever heard in my entire life. But there it is. There it is. It's got to stop.
It's so telling.
It's really got to stop.
So telling. Even when you heard the confirmation hearings of some of Trump's cabinet picks, you had RFK who was speaking to these congressmen, and you could tell that every single one of them was in the pocket of Big Pharma, and he called them out right there in front of the American people. And no wonder they're turning against who was used to be one of their constituents. RFK was a liberal kind of, Democratic.
Yeah,
he could have been president if he'd run, really. But although I will say you can't champion the term "Make America Healthy Again" until they stop spraying chemtrails. So hopefully they'll take care of that.
I'm right there with you. They need to stop the chemtrails. We are so far down the rabbit hole. We've got 2 years. We'll see what he does. Already he's done so much. And the liberals hate it, but we'll see. One of my favorite things is he's finally the voice of reason. If you have a teenage daughter that has spent the last 5 or 6 years of her life training, and now she's going to run against a guy who still has his equipment, still has his, penis and testicles, and he's just taking a bunch of female hormones, and somehow that's okay? If it's your daughter, you're going to go to the mat for that. And you need to. We need to, because it's ridiculous. Finally, there's 2 genders, male and female. Now, here's the deal. If you want to, do what you're going to do and cut off body parts and try to become something else, that's your free will. I'm not going to hate you. I don't hate anybody. I'm going to tell you that I think you're nuts and that you're harming yourself, and you may come to regret it, but I'm not going to hate you, and I'm not going to engage in hate speech, and I'm not going to put you down. I'm going to love you the way Jesus loved you. But don't ask me to condone it, because I'm not. If you say, well, what do you think about this, L.A.? I'm going to say, well, you're being deceived. That's all. I love you, but you're deceived. And there's a way out, and his name is Jesus, and he can heal you. Don't buy the lie. But that's just one. The transgender thing is just like huge. But there's so much in society which is just wacky. It's just wacky stuff. And that's why the pushback. The pendulum has gone way over here, and now it's going to swing back the other way. And it needs to.
Yes. Yeah. Jeremiah, I just had one more question. And, of course, this is a very important one because, of course, L.A., you're familiar with the Hegelian dialectic, which is the problem creates, then they create the solution for the problem they created in the first place. And I understand we live in such a positive time in the shifting of American politics back towards common sense. But at the same time, we see this ripe, fertile ground for the budding AI future. And I wanted to ask you about the correlation with AI and the future mark of the beast. And what do you see coming in the near future regarding, because Elon Musk is plugging our government into AI to tell him what to do. And we see these other guys have all these plans. What is the warning that, when it comes to AI and that making the mark of the beast even possible?
There's a clip that I show at conferences. Up a clip. I just say, watch this clip. And so I run the clip, and people are looking at, why is LA running with this? And then at the end of the clip, I let it run for about 1 minute and 30 seconds. And then I stop and I go, what you are looking at is 100% AI generated. And you can't tell. And I can't tell. It's a picture of a very attractive woman. She's like 32, 33, very articulate, pretty gal. And it doesn't matter even what she's talking about. Who cares? Everything is 100% AI. It's not real. So the point being is this. You and I can no longer be accountable to anything. How do you know what's real or not? You don't know. I don't know whether it's real. Because, they can take my image and have me say the most despicable and vile things you can possibly imagine. And they're already doing it with the girls. How can I say, I never said that, I never did that, I was never there? Well, we saw it on YouTube. It's got to be real. No, it doesn't. But see where we're going? It's another reason why he has to come back, because you can't fix it anymore. And I'm not being negative, and I'm not being a naysayer. I'm telling you the truth. AI, to me, is the last straw. That's it. He's got to come back soon. I'm not a date setter, but more than likely next Wednesday.
Well, kind of off topic, and this is my last question, is that you recently debunked a supposed fairy. Can you tell me more about that?
Oh, that's years ago. That's when Rick was still alive. That's years ago. Oh, yeah. Richard Shaw and I were filming a Watcher series called Physical Evidence. We flew down to Mexico City to meet Jaime Maussan. Jaime Maussan's a wonderful guy, been a researcher forever, huge following. And Jaime goes, Marzulli, Shaw, I have to go up and do a show. I'll be down in an hour. In the meantime, look at this. And he reaches behind him, opens a cabinet door, takes this vial out filled with liquid, and in it is this winged beast with a demon-looking skull and a barbed tail like a scorpion. And Rick and I go, oh my gosh. And we're filming all this. And when Jaime comes down, we begin to ask him, Jaime, where'd you get this? He tells us the story. It's been examined. He shows us the x-rays. We take the x-rays back. I bring it down to a veterinarian in Malibu. He looks at the x-rays and go, LA, it looks real. I don't know what to tell you. So I wrote, when we presented it, I said, as of such and such a date, based on the research that we have seen, we believe, and the x-rays, and a veterinarian's professional opinion, we believe that the fairy is real. Then I wrote, but more testing needs to be done, because that's what researchers do.
Yep.
So later on, about 6 months later, Jaime arranged for Javier to take the ferry out of Mexico. And now we're in a veterinarian's office on a Saturday. There are 3 vets there because everybody wants to see this thing. We take it out of the jar, we place it on a green plastic tray, and we do x-rays. Sure enough, you can see the thing's been shot. There's the buckshot, the bird shot in the pelvis area. And one of the vets goes, you know, that pelvis looks really weird. And I go, yeah, but the thing's been shot. Maybe the reason why it looks weird is because it's been shot. And he goes, yeah, good point. So the thing lays on this tray. Richard Shaw's under a microscope examining it. LA, you're not going to believe this. I'm talking to one of the vets. And I look down at the tray and I go, wow, that's weird. I take some forceps and I pick up this thing and I hold it up to the veterinarian's face. I go, what's this? And he goes, that looks like wood with epoxy on the end of it. We go running back to the x-ray. Sure enough, we realize this thing's a construct. And we begin to dissect more of the thing. I call up prophecy watchers, stop the presses with the interview. It's a fake, it's a hoax. I call up Skywatch TV, stop the presses, it's a hoax. We were forthright. The moment we found out it was a hoax, we went public with it. We didn't try to cover it up to save face,
Right.
even though I said more testing needs to be done. Out of everybody in the circle, there was only one guy, we'll mention his name, who gave us a bad report. Oh, I always knew it was fake. Oh, really? You know, really? You knew? Nobody knew. It fooled veterinarians, it fooled the DNA, fooled everybody until we got it. Once we got it, then we did a deconstruct. You can go to the website, streaming.lamarzulli.net. You can watch that film for free. You can watch it for free. It's called Anatomy of a Hoax. Anatomy of a Hoax. We took the ferry to the Santa Barbara Natural History Museum, and he deconstructed it and showed us how the taxidermist had put it all together. Jaime still didn't believe it because he spent $20,000 on that thing.
Wow. Well, and I think that's what makes you such a good researcher is that you keep on. Like, you're going to make sure that it's legit before you say 100% that this is the case.
Always.
You know?
And if I don't know, I tell you up front. Guys, this looks real to me, but I don't know. More testing needs to be done.
Do you want to tell our audience where they can find your stuff and, you know, all that?
Yeah, lamarzulli.com or Rungs of Disclosure, rungsofdisclosure.com. There it is right there. Let me see if I can get the balloons up again. Nope, they're not going to do it. Rungsofdisclosure.com, lamarzulli.com. There's 30 films, 14 books. You know, folks, I get it. These shows are great. We spent about an hour together. We've scratched the surface. You need to do your homework. Do a deep dive. And when you do a deep dive and you buy something, it helps me stay out in the field and doing the research. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for coming on Skiba News Nation.
Thank you for joining us.
Blessings to both of you. God bless.
If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe. And also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Son of the legendary Rob Jeremiah Skiba.
It's like they don't even want to wake up.